I will tell you a little bit about the idea of Earthling, which is the project that Jill and I will be working on. Actually, the beautiful title of Earthling came from Jill's idea. She suggested that name, and I think it just works perfect with what we have in mind. So this is a full musical project, but that will eventually expand into other disciplines. So the primal idea is first through social media to make a call for recordings to all over the world for human voices. So this to have like the most primal sound of the human being, which is our voice. And I want people that are involved, and they will eventually send the recordings from ideally the whole planet, to send songs that they will feel close to locally in the region. So folkloric songs or lullabies, or you know, like songs that they would just sing to the sky, or that their grandma would have sung to them when they were kids. So what indeed makes us humans, what makes us earthlings, in a very local way first. So once we have all those recordings gathered, I also have access, thanks to Jill and to the SETI Institute, to some of the recordings that have been made from outer space, so from planets and pulsars and meteorites or asteroids, whatever, which are very, very exciting sounds. They really are very sci-fi, of course. And I mean, as you could hear in my music, I anyway try to reproduce them since a long time ago. So now to have access to these sounds is fantastic. So another element is that here's where I come as a composer, is to write a piece for an ensemble, a mixed ensemble, that I will show later a video of the people I want to involve in this ensemble, and just write like a normal composition. That ideally we will premiere at the ATA Observatory. We're still working on the details. We have 2 years to work on the details, so I'm very positive we will make it happen. And so that's the...
Keep that date. 2 years from now.
Yeah, 2 years from now. You're all invited. So once the piece is done, and of course properly performed and recorded, then comes the next stage of the piece, which is to have 1 or 2 movements of the piece, which eventually we will select together what we think is the best, to also load them on the internet. And so for the musicians that can read music, I'm going to load the score. I'm going to load the samples of all the instruments that played in those pieces, so people have free access to that. I'm going to load all the sounds that were involved, including the voices, everything, and I'm going to load a small explanation to non-reading musicians of what are the basic harmonies, melodies, and rhythm of these works. And to make an invitation to every musician in the world, so now not only singers, but every musician in the world, to respond to that input. So what would you compose with this music, you know, to tell a message of what makes us earthlings? So that's the 3rd stage of the project. There is a 4th stage, which would include every human in the planet, interested, of course. I mean, nobody's forced to do anything they don't want. Which is like, you have to be part of this. Well, no. So, which is...
We should make it mandatory.
Yeah. So, which is to make an app also available through the internet for any intelligent device that would have every sample that has been used before, in a controlled way, of course, because otherwise it's just crazy. And so the app would be indeed like a solar system, where the sun would be an audio mixer, and all the samples and all the audio files will be orbiting that audio mixer. So any musician, non-musician, or even children, which is what I would like to focus more in this stage of the project, could just play with the samples, either individually and just, you know, play with effects, equalizers and filters, etc., everything that we audio people work with, and also mix them in this virtual mixer, which is actually our sun of this small solar system, and then create their own music. So once you create your song, you can, you know, download it as an MP3, and you can just either send it to your girlfriend and say, look, honey, I composed this for you. But all these will go to a gigantic database, which we're also working on the details. And for eventual, also working on the details, for eventual launch into space of all this material to represent the sounds, not of the Earth, but the sounds of Earthlings, the sounds of humans, from the most primal thing, which is the voice, to the most advanced thing, which would be digital sounds. And of course, this would be accompanied by many things, like Charles came with the fantastic idea of eventually documenting all this in the third stage, so when the musicians are responding to the input, and maybe just travel around the world to see what would be the response of a Macedonian gypsy band, or what would be the response of a Berlin DJ, or what would be the response of a Ghana percussion ensemble. You know, I mean, the possibilities are literally endless. And also to have a platform that would be a web page, of course, where all Earthlings can also, you know, help us develop this message. So, I mean, that's what that comes like. From my part, of course, it's a gigantic enterprise. It just wouldn't be possible to have such a dream without the support of all these people here. And yeah, that's, I mean, I'll show a video now, but I would, of course, let Jill tell her input about it.
Well, it's going to take how long?
By the way,
Isn't
when
that
the
exciting?
internet
I mean,
crashes around the world, you'll know that Felipe has gone live.
Yeah.
That's going to
Yeah.
be the indication.